Okay. That's okay with me. All right. So everybody, welcome to our, I believe this is our third, hold on just one second. I'm going to mute myself for just a second and just give a little message to the people that are sitting right over. Okay. So now they will scream randomly and just shock us all. All right. Okay. So welcome to the, I want to say third workshop for the media. So we had our introduction, we did our camera and our reporters, and now we're going to talk about anchormen or women, no discrimination here, folks, our writers and also our influencers. So before we get started on that, I was told last time by an individual that I gave birth to that I am a little boring, or not boring. He said that I'm fire hosing you guys with so much information so quickly, and I'm talking so fast and trying to get all this stuff out there that it's not as much fun. So I get it. I understand. I don't want these meetings to go very long, and it's a lot of information to give you guys all at once. So hopefully you guys can go back, either slow me down or take some notes and get the important stuff out. I promise this will be the last fire hose type meeting, and then afterwards we'll start having some of the fun stuff. So I told him that and he forgave me and let me go. But generally, I'm a fun person. But this is a lot of information to get through before we start Yes Week. And I want you guys to be totally prepared. Like, I want you guys to hit the ground running. Like, I want to put those pass badges over your head and then start right then, okay? So that's why it's really important for us to do these workshops prior to, so that we can really get into the good stuff and not feel like we have to, you know how you start sometimes and it takes a little bit to get into the what's going on. So we're gonna try to avoid that this time. So let me go ahead and get started on our anchor person job. Now, the anchor person, and just like the rest of the media, and I've said this a million times, excuse me, that all of the jobs are pretty much overlapping in one area or another. And so if you like 2 or 3 of the jobs that I'm going to talk about, and you're like not sure which one you actually want to go into full-on commitment, just remember there's going to be a lot of flexibility and a lot of movement. So if the anchor person happens to be out on an assignment and he's doing an interview someplace else, or she's doing an interview someplace else, and the news needs to be broken and somebody needs to be in front of that camera, then it could be you. So just so you know, don't turn off your brains when I'm talking about something that you don't think it's going to be your job, because who knows, it may be your job for just a short time. Okay. All right. So let's start with the news. The anchor news. These are the ones that are always reading the scripts right in front of the cameras. They're also known as news presenters, broadcasters. They are the ones who inform the audience in lots of different areas. They do television, radio, online platforms. They're usually the public face to a news program. So you recognize a person, you know which newscast or news station that they represent. They play a key role in delivering news in a clear, engaging, and professional manner. Here are some of their here are some of their responsibilities. Number 1, presenting news. Shocking. News anchors are responsible for presenting news stories, breaking news, and current events to viewers or listeners in a clear and coherent manner, which obviously I'm struggling with my mouth. So that's the idea. They practice for hours and hours and hours, articulating things, being able to pronounce people's names. And it's a lot more stress than you would think. You're just not reading a paper. There's a lot to it. Number 2, reading scripts. Obviously, the anchors will get scripts from the writers and will need to read those scripts in a coherent manner, even if they were just handed it 3 seconds before. So that's a pretty important skill too. They read scripts prepared by writers or editors, and often improvising when necessary to deliver news, updates, reports, or interviews on the air. So let's say you're interviewing somebody on the air and you ask a question and you get a really interesting response to your question, and you've got to be able to articulate something back to them in a way that makes you still sound like you're a professional person, or that you know what you're talking about. Number 3, interviewing. News anchors may conduct live or pre-recorded interviews with guest experts or reporters to provide additional insights and perspectives on news stories. So you have your moment where the news anchor is talking and he says, let's go to our reporter Anna in the field. And Anna is over here in front of a volcano and it's erupting. Eliza is running around getting some really good footage of Anna trying not to catch fire. And they cut back to the news anchor, Jade, who has got to be like, wow, that looks like it's quite a hot mess. I hope you guys make it out okay. And if you do, we'll have lunch, you know, or whatever. Like, you've got to be able to just jump in there and put yourself in that situation with them, and ask questions if they're not on fire yet, and all of the above. Okay. And then also interviewing when they are not at a live performance. There's going to be a lot of interviews. In our scenario, in our sim, we're going to have a lot of politicians, which means really good interview opportunities. So keep that in mind. Okay, so they also do research. So if you are going to be telling a story and you're going to be on air and you're going to be using a script, you do not want to rely solely on what is on the paper. You want to know personally information about what you're talking about, because if for some reason the teleprompter stops working and you've got to improvise something that has to do with that story, you've got to know enough about what you're talking about in order to be able to just continue and not look like the teleprompter just broke. And that's why research is important for that person as well. But you'll notice a lot of these things are the same things that other people in other jobs do. We all research, we all write, we're always presenting something, right? The collaboration is, again, another thing that the anchors will do. They'll work with the producers, the reporters, and other team members to plan, coordinate the content of a broadcast. Let's say someone's going out for a breaking news story, the reporter and the cameraman go out. The anchor person has to be on site and ready to go with their portion of that broadcast. Make sense? So a lot of coordination and collaboration on that. The voice and presentation is important for an anchor person. Their tone, voice, presentation skills need to be engaging. They need to be able to convey the news with authority, credibility, and professionalism. So you don't want someone you don't want somebody who's a news reporter whose voice is like changing octaves every other sentence. Like, no offense to anyone whose voice does that, but it's nice to have a nice, smooth, calm, and professional sounding person as the anchor person. Time management. Anchors must manage their time efficiently to deliver news, updates, and specific time constraints and deadlines. So let's say they only have 30 seconds to get through a certain part of the story because they need to cut to something else. You've got to be able to know exactly when you're reading that script, how long it's going to take you and things like that. Ethics and standards, which comes up with everybody. Ethics and standards. News anchors are expected to adhere to journalistic ethics and standards, such as accuracy, fairness, and objectivity in their reporting and presentation of the news. So if I'm interviewing somebody that I hate, you should never know and never even get an inkling that that is my personal feeling about that person, right? All right, overall, the job of news anchor is to inform, educate, and engage the audience by delivering news content in a compelling and trustworthy manner. News anchors are often seen as trusted sources of information, and they play a critical role in shaping public perception, understanding the current events and issues. Okay. Any questions on news anchors? You guys always have so many questions. It's fabulous. Okay, we're moving on then. Let us go to the job of the writers. Actually, if we do finish early, I had some other things that we were going to do today. So hopefully we'll be able to get to that. Hopefully more people will show up too, because it will be helpful if there's more people here when we start doing the second portion of our workshop today. All right, so the job of writers, obviously they're going to do a lot of research. The writers are the ones who probably take the most time to do the most research because they have to be the ones to write the stories. So they want to be the fact checkers and making sure that what they're putting on paper is accurate information. So they can actually have lots of different sources that they can use in doing their research. In our case, I'm seeing that there's probably going to be a few people, and I've talked to a few already, who are really interested in being informants. Informant being somebody who works on the inside of a social circle or a situation, or have access to information that maybe the public doesn't have access to. And they're the ones that the writers and or the reporters will try to get a hold of and try to get information that they have that they can then turn into a news story. So making friends with the politicians, making friends with the assemblymen, super good idea. Start trying to make those connections even before Yes Week. So you have your informants already established before you walk in the door. You know that you'll be able to go to them to get information. For the writer, this is essential because they're the ones who are going to be basically kind of being a little bit of a detective, very similar to the reporters. The writers can do it a little bit more behind the scenes, where the reporters are a little bit more in front of the camera, obviously. Okay, after they've done all of their gathering information from various sources. By the way, we will have press releases and we will have wire services. You can do online research to stay informed about current events and topics of events, but for our simulation, because it's our own little world, any of the press releases and wire services that we will get will be coming from the mentor team so that you guys can get really good information, just the same way that a regular news reporting station would get. Once they have that information, then they get to write their stories and their articles, scripts for the broadcasters, and the online content. They can even do little blurps for commercials for the news station and write a cute little commercial, and there's going to be really fun things to do with that. It involves crafting clear, concise, and engaging content that is suitable for a target audience and adheres to the station's styles and guidelines. So our target audience obviously is each other. And so if you, as the writers, want to use vernacular that your age group likes, that's totally great. And I think that'd be fun. Also, the writers are the editors too. So they're the ones that are in-house at the station and will probably be doing a lot of helping with all of the rest of the editing of all of the video, as well as all of the copy, or basically all of the words that get put down. There is another possibility that we will also be able to do a newspaper. And I know if any of you have been in the media team in past simulations, we did have newspapers. So there will be a printer and they will be people who will be able to write newspaper articles. It would be really fun if we had a cartoonist, somebody who could draw, that would do a fun cartoony kind of a thing. Yes, I'm looking at you, Anna. And so there's lots of different possibilities in lots of different areas, even within the writer category, okay? Collaboration is, again, what a writer does, because they work with the other team members, such as the reporters, editors, producers, and sometimes graphic designers or video editors. It's essential to produce a cohesive and comprehensive news content. So you want it to all look and feel the same. I want, personally, my news station that I'm going to represent as the mentor, I want everything. I don't want anyone to ever question who's the one who's producing that news story. So when it comes out on that TV set, they know, that's this station, because I don't want it to be confused with the other station. We want to make it clear and concise which station is the one who's producing the shows, and which one's doing what, right? Because not that it's a competition, but it is. Okay. All right, adaptability, again, something very familiar with everybody, because we all have to do it in every single position. The writers also need to be able to adapt quickly to changing news situations, headlines, and formats, as news is often time sensitive and dynamic. Something that I think that we learned in one of our previous simulations is that information is power, but if you keep that information for too long and somebody else finds out about it, then they're the ones with the power, because they get to share that information. So you lose power if you don't share the information. So the trick is knowing when to share, how much to share, and what to share. So I think that I'm excited about this one, because it's almost like a 2.0 of our last media group. And I'm really hoping that we can do a little bit more in the trying to timely and get that information out there, so that we can capture the audience that we want to capture, and then have them want more that we have available when it comes out later. All right, ethical standards. Upholding ethical standards in journalism, including fact-checking, objectivity, avoiding bias, is critical for maintaining credibility and trust with the audience. So that is something that you, as the employees of the news station, will get to decide how much you want to be honest and how much you don't want to be honest, or how you want to influence your constituents. All right, so that's it for the writers. Any questions on the writing job? I will tell you, the writing job, if somebody is like, hey, listen, I don't ever want to be in front of the camera, writing job is a pretty good one to do that. You would probably not be in front of a camera at any time, where in any of the other positions, you may end up being in front of a camera. It's also a nice one if you don't want to physically be running around all over the place. Other than going and getting your sources, a lot of the sources will come in through your wire services and through information that will come through your mentors. But as far as being able to have to run around and go out and do a lot of things, the writers would probably be the least likely to have to do that. All right. If there's no questions, seeing all these faces, okay. The job of an influencer, last one. And we're doing good on our time. So influencers are involved leveraging their online presence and social media platforms to create content that resonates with their audience and influences their opinions, behaviors, and purchasing decisions. Here are some key aspects to an influencer's job. I know I talked about this a lot in the keynote of, Anna and I were talking about the fall retreat. Influencers are mainly there to help you decide what to buy. So I know it's kind of strange because they're fun to listen to and fun to watch, and you believe everything they say, but they're sponsored by people who are basically paying them to be a commercial all the time. So let's talk about a little bit about our influencers and what our jobs are going to be. Our influencers are going to create content. So content creation is influencers regularly create, such as photos, videos, blog posts, social media posts that align with their niche or in areas of expertise. This content is often engaging, authentic, and relatable to their followers. So before we go into Yes Week, whoever wants to be the influencers, we're going to have a long sit down and decide what the content is going to be. And not that you couldn't change content during the middle of Yes Week, but that will be something that you work with your editor or your mentor on very closely, because it needs to be relevant. It needs to be related to the sim that we're doing. So if you're going to do content on makeup, that's great, but it should be, okay, so when you're in front of the camera as politicians, this is the best makeup for you, or, something like that, because you need to have your content created for the people who are going to be watching it. And our world is kind of narrow. Maybe you could even do something about how to deal with flyaways if you've got some non-human beings, because we've got some fuzzy people that are coming. So I don't know, you could come up with some really fun stuff. All right, number 2, building a following. Influencers focus on growing and engaging their audience by consistently posting high quality content, interacting with followers, and utilizing strategies such as hashtags, collaborations, and giveaways to attract new followers. So kind of a challenge for us in this scenario to be able to do this, but the easiest way for us to have someone see whether or not they're getting the most followers is to have like some sort of a poster for each of the different influencers and have stickers. And if you follow that person, you put a sticker on their poster, and then we'd be able to see who has the most followers. Does that make sense? We could come up with all sorts of different fun ideas to do like that. That will be the job of the influencers and the editors and the mentors to decide how you want to follow or how you want to keep track of the followers. Brand partnerships. Many influencers collaborate with brands and businesses to promote their products and services to the audience. These partnerships can take various forms, including sponsored content, affiliate marketing, or brand ambassadorship. So for our simulation, because it is such a political environment, I would imagine that there would be a assemblyman who could sponsor a particular influencer, and that influencer could talk about whatever the bill was that assemblyman is proposing, and they could give it a kind of a completely different perspective as far as the difference between a news reporter and an influencer would be quite a different situation. Does that make sense? but you are still going to want your content to be kind of the same thing as far as like making sure that it's relevant to the people that you're talking to. Now, remember, again, we're a fairy tale world, so there's all sorts of different possibilities that you could include in your sponsorships. You could be sponsored by wand makers. You could be sponsored by, you know, Merlin's Magic Shop. You could be sponsored by, there's lots of different fun things you could do. Okay, number 4, authenticity and trust. Successful influencers must build with their audience trust by maintaining authenticity, transparency, and credibility in their content. They often share personal stories, experiences, and recommendations that resonate with their followers. So if you guys are following an influencer, it's because they are speaking something that you either really love and it's something in common, or it's something that you want to learn about, or for some reason there's something that they have to say that you're interested in. So as an influencer, you have to think about that in reverse. What do I need to say that's going to speak to the people that I need to engage in order to get more followers? Engagement and community building is another part of influencing. They actively engage their audience by responding to comments, hosting live streams or question and answer sessions, and fostering a sense of community among their followers. Now, we'll talk about lots of different ways that the influencers can do this. One thing that I thought would just be really fun is to have a table and do a live stream where they're doing taste testing, something from lunch or different treats, or give us your opinion on this bill, and they're out there just getting opinions and talking to the people on the streets and interviewing them. Different than what a reporter would do. An influencer is doing it as shoulder to shoulder, like they're part of the community, where a reporter is unbiasedly talking about something. Influencers can be biased. Does that make sense, the difference? Yes? Shaking heads? No? Okay. All of you guys at home? All right. The last thing, they need to stay relevant to the trends. So they need to stay up to date on trends, changes in social media algorithms, a new platform to adapt to their content strategy, and maintain relevance in ever-evolving digital landscapes. I don't know if any of you guys have been to Yes Week before, but the landscape of Yes Week changes from day to day. There is always something that's going to change, something that's going to explode. So there's always going to be something new and exciting. And let's say there's a disaster, and okay, so now we're going to deal with the disaster. The news reporters go off there to do their thing. The influencers go off to do their thing. And the assemblymen run off to do their things. So it can change in a heartbeat. So adaptability, super important. All right. Does anyone have any questions about our influencers, our anchor people, or our writers? Because it is 7 o'clock, and that gives us another half an hour to finish up the rest of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Yes, Miss Claire.
So you said that influencers can be biased while reporters have to be unbiased and just give the truth.
Yep. That is the idea. Influencers are there because they are literally, and you know, they're there to influence you on what they feel is the best thing to do. And they can share then that information. It's not like a reporter that can say, I like pink more than purple. An influencer can do that where a reporter can't. An influencer can say, here's this news, or here's this assemblyman, or here's this committee chairperson, and I really believe what he was saying. I really like his bill. I think that it's spot on, that I think we should pass this bill. And then here's the reasons why. I have this personal experience because of that, or whatever. And then you can really endorse those people, where a news reporter should never, ever do that. In theory. Winky, winky. Right? Okay. Any other questions? So in a sense, the influencers have a lot more freedom because they can say what they want. They also don't have the same kind of a team behind them that the rest of the news people have, since they are working in the news station. I'm not sure how we're going to separate the influencer from the news team. I really felt like it was important to have them because it is something that we as society nowadays, we really utilize. And we get a lot of information from our influencers. So I think they're important to have. We just have to talk a little bit more about how we're going to incorporate those within our teams. And that will happen on our last workshop when we know who's going to be in the teams, we know who the influencers are going to be, and then we can talk about the team building, which is going to be our last workshop before Yes Week. And that will be when we start deciding all sorts of good stuff. Okay. We're good? Okay. All right. here's the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit. So I wanted to cover a little bit of the influence of the media, and how it affects society. And I'm only going to do this when I would have 2 more things, but I think I'm going to save that for next time because I really kind of actually wanted to get to a little bit of a jump on our team creation. Did anyone see the email that talked about the Tell the Tales campaign of the media and the assemblymen working together? Yes, awesome. I see some heads shaking. Awesome. So that is something that I really kind of want to get a little bit of a jump on also and answer some questions for that because I don't want it to be confusing. I want it to be really simple and easy. And I don't know if it came across that way in the email. So I'm going to try to do my best to work through some things before we even get started. But let me get through our influence of the media on politics. This is a multifaceted issue and can vary greatly on factors and the type of media, the political system, and the specific content of a given situation. So again, lots of different things can happen. But here are some key elements that I want us to think about before we go into this Yes Week, how our media is going to affect the politics of the day. Because again, remember, we're working to support them, and then they give us information so that we get supported also. So media consumption patterns. Studies consistently show that the media plays a significant role in shaping public opinion and political attitudes. According to the Pew Research Center, a majority of Americans rely on the news media to stay informed about politics and current events, with television, online news sites, and social media being the most common sources of news. So unless we tell them, they won't know. I mean, they can have rumors and they can have all sorts of stuff like we have seen before in previous Yes Weeks. Rumors are great and they run all over the place, but in order to really get accurate information, they're going to look for us. The rise of digital media and social networking platforms has transformed the way people consume news and engage in political information. Online news sites and social media platforms increasingly shape public discourse and influence public or political debates. So again, we are going to be hosting some of these political debates, and it's going to be really, really fun. We could even end up in a situation where one news station is sponsoring one assemblyman, the other news station is sponsoring the other one, and then we have to kind of a battle of the wits between those politicians, but also with the news station. Or it could turn into the news station competes to see which one is going to be able to be the one to air the debate, and whichever the public says we want this news station to be the one to do their debate because we trust them more. That's going to be kind of the little competitiveness between our 2 news stations, which will be super fun to do. So there's lots of different ways that we can do it. I'm pretty excited about all of them. All right, agenda setting and framing. The media has the power to set the agenda and frame issues in ways that influence people on how to perceive and understand political events. Through selective reporting, emphasis on certain topics, and framings of narratives, the media can shape public perceptions of political issues and influence their priorities of policymakers. So just by not saying something, you say something. Does everyone understand how that works? By emphasizing something, you say something. Even though it can be the same words on the paper, how you say it makes all the difference in the world. So even though I'm completely unbiased between chocolate and vanilla, you know which one I like, right? Pretty simple, right? And that's powerful because subtlety is past some people. They don't understand why they know that I like chocolate and that I don't like vanilla, right? So that's our job as media, to be subtle or be 100% honest. Okay, agenda setting theories suggest that media's coverage of certain topics can influence the people's perception of what issues are most important. Similarly, can't say that word. Framing theories suggest that the way the media presents information can influence how people interact and evaluate political issues. So if I say, and now we are going to talk about this very important topic, and I talk about the importance of roly-polies in your garden, and the next second I said, and we're going to just break away for a moment and cover a little bit about this news election. We'll be back with you in just a minute, right? So roly poly is important, political election, not so important. Be back in a minute. So just by a little bit of word changing, you can tell exactly which direction I'm going. So framing, think about how you frame something. If you think about a picture and you take half the picture away and you only show a part of the picture, then you're only showing part of the truth of what's going on. So that's, think of that when you hear the phrase reframing, right? So we're going to reframe and put things that we want in the forefront and then things that we don't want you to care about in the background. All right, political polarization. The media can contribute to political polarization, which means that to polarize something means that you start focusing on that and everyone kind of, it gets drawn into that one thing, okay? By reinforcing existing beliefs and amplifying partisan viewpoints, research indicates that people tend to seek out news sources that align with their pre-existed political beliefs, leading to the formation of echo chambers of filter bubbles where individuals are exposed to a narrow range of perspectives. Does everyone understand what I'm talking about here? So let's say I enjoy chocolate and Eliza enjoys vanilla and Claire likes caramel and Joy and Nathaniel down there, they don't like anything sweet, right? So what we're talking about is if there's a news reporter over here who is always emphasizing chocolate, that's the station I'm going to watch, right? Because I agree with what they're saying. Whether they're trying to say it or not, I'm going to go that direction. If there's someone who's like, we don't think sweets need to be, we need to eliminate our sweets, then Joy and Nathaniel are going to be watching that station. So we're going to watch what we already have in our mind is truth, right? Whether it's true or not, or whether it's opinion or not, that is where we're going to go look for our news, right? So as news reporters, as media stations, do we change how we say the news so that we can get more people interested in watching it, right? All right, cable news networks, talk radio, and partisan websites often cater to specific ideologies to their audiences, contributing to the fragmentation of the media landscape and of the polarization of information sources. So, interesting thing to think about. How about we talk about the media bias now? Perceptions of media bias are widespread, with many people believing that the media is based in favor of certain political parties or ideologies' perspectives. Study has shown that the perceptions of media bias can influence trust in the media and shape political attitudes. Do you trust me if you know that I hate vanilla and I never talk positively about vanilla? Well, number one, if you like vanilla, you're not going to watch my news station, right? And number two, you're going to think, well, if she is doing this with the chocolate and the vanilla thing, I wonder what she's really going to be doing about these two assemblymen. Like, is she really unbiased, right? All right. So then we start separating. We start separating our ideas, and that's how our news stations can end up becoming very biased because they're trying to cater to a certain persona or a certain idea. All right, while there is an evidence of bias in some media outlets, research suggests that media bias is often more subtle and nuanced than commonly perceived. Factors such as editorial decisions, story selection, and language choices can contribute to perceptions of bias. All right, the role in elections and political campaigns, which we are going to be taking a big part of those two things, and that's what we're going to talk about at the last part of our workshop today. So let's cover this. The media plays crucial roles in elections and political campaigns by providing information to voters, shaping candidates' images, and influencing electoral outcomes. Political candidates and parties often rely on the media coverage to reach voters and communicate their messages. The media coverage of elections can influence voters' perceptions of candidates, campaign issues, and electoral processes. Media attention, debate, performances, and news coverage can all affect candidates' chances of success in elections. Has anyone seen this personally? Raise hands. Watching any bit of the news during elections, and there is name calling and backbiting and all sorts of things. And it's not just the commercials, it's during the news shows. So it is something that we see commonly. Now, how we're going to handle it as a news station is something that you guys, as the news reporters and the news media people, will be the ones to decide. What I want to do in the last little bit, oh, does anyone have any questions on what I have just fire hosed you to the last little bit? Again, you can go back and watch this recording and take some notes and see if there's anything that you have questions on. Remember, if you guys ever have questions, you can always email me. Always, 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 okay? And I have not bothered at all by emails. I'm buried with emails with things right now lately, so a little bit of something else would be a break. It would be delightful. All right, so if we don't have any questions, let's go into our, let me get this sheet brought up over here. All right. All right, so in order to prepare for our Tell the Tales, we need to form media teams. So I want you guys to start looking over the list of the people who have signed up to do the media and start deciding. You don't have to decide what job that you really want at this exact moment because everyone's going to be doing the same exact thing. You can preface any of your information with what job that you would like to do. Like, let's say you want to be a writer, but here I am asking you to make a video, right? So everyone's going to do a video. They're going to, in fact, everyone's going to do 2 videos. And those videos, the parameters between those 2 videos are the same, but it's what I'm going to be calling the freedom within the framework. So I'm going to give you guys freedom to do whatever you want to within the framework that I'm about to give you. And we're going to go over this again. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Joy and Nathaniel. I didn't realize I forgot to turn on my chat. So I am so sorry if I have not been seeing chat, but that was the first one. So that's great. Added it to my outline document. Okay, that sounds great. I can also do that. All right, so here we go with our teams. Everyone is going to be required to interview one politician and then to do some sort of another special video. It can be a commercial, it can be an infomercial, it can be whatever you guys want to do. Just needs to be a video. And I'm saying that we need to have at least a 5-minute, like generally news stories are less than 5 minutes, but I want to see a little bit more from you guys. So we're going to do 5 minutes and I want to have 2 videos that are 5 minutes long each. And I want the one of them to be an interview with a politician, and you can make it a talking head, or you can have it where they're walking around and talking at the same time and you're following them. You can do whatever you want to, as long as it's an interview with a single individual, which is the politician. And then the other one is going to be your special video that you can do whatever you want to, whether it's a commercial or it's an endorsement, or you're an influencer and you're talking about endorsement, a bill, and you're having a special guest come in on and you're collaborating with that person. So there's 2 reasons why we want to do this. Number 1, you guys need to start getting into what the assemblymen are working on. You need to understand before we get to Yes Week, what it is they're working on, what are their agendas, what is it that they're trying to do. If there are people who are running for election, those should be the first ones that you guys grab to do interviews. I am not limiting anyone to do only one interview with one person. If you really think, you know what, I want to interview 3 people and I want to show Sonia three different perspectives, then by all means do it. The only requirement I have is the 2 videos, but anything you want to do on top of that is great. As far as the teams, it doesn't matter if both of you guys wanted to be a news anchor, one of you guys want to be cameraman, one of you wants to be a reporter. When you're working together, I want you guys to, first of all, find people that do what you don't do well. Like I was talking to Nathaniel last week. If you do something really, really well, but you don't do other things well, then find somebody who's a team member that does the thing well that you don't do, and then work together. That collaboration is important, and it's going to start now because we're going to use it a lot during our time during Yes Week. So we need to start practicing and using our collaboration skills now, which means even if you're going to be a reporter, you're going to be doing some editing. You're going to be probably doing some writing, and it's not going to be huge. Like I said, just 5 minutes, and you wouldn't believe how fast 5 minutes goes past when you're trying to get a politician to stop talking. They'll talk and you won't have any problem with getting a lot of content. Getting interesting content may be a challenge, but again, that's the reporter's job, right? Or the influencers or the anchor person. So let's talk about how to form teams. Now, on the email that we sent out, it gave you a link to a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet has media members on one side and it has assembly people on the other side. The assembly people are color coordinated so you can see what they're running to do. If they're running to be chancellor, or if they're running to be committee chairperson, if they're running to be let's see, sergeant at arms and clerks. So if something interests you or there's a certain person that you really want to interview, what I want you to do is, first of all, form a team, and teams need to be at least 2 people. There are some people that I think would prefer to work by themselves, and I don't have a problem with that. It just puts a lot of burden on one person, and I really would like you guys to learn how to work together. So at least 2 people if you can. And then you as a team are going to color coordinate your 2 personages on that spreadsheet. So let's say Eliza and Anna decide to be a team and they say, let's choose purple. And so they're going to color code both of their names in purple. So we know that the purple team is Eliza and Anna. If there's 3 people and Angel or Claire wants to join, then she can also join in and there would be 3 purple. Does that make sense? You guys can do this? Smart, intelligent technology children. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to do as far as creating your teams. The sooner you guys can start creating the teams, the better, because then you can start reaching out to the politicians and the other assemblyman people and requesting interviews. Interviews can be, you can just do a voice interview and then put whatever background you want to for your video. You can do Zoom calls if you're away from each other. You can do, there's lots of things you can do that you don't have to be right in the same time. Let's say Anna decides that she wants to work with Miriam. Miriam's in town and they want to interview Cooper, right? And Cooper's not he's actually one of the media teams, but I'm just using an example. So they want to interview Cooper. So Miriam says, hey, I live closer to Cooper. I can go get the footage of the interview. If Anna, will you write out some questions that I can ask him? And here's a secret. When you're, and I did a lot of behind the scenes stuff for the production studio that I used to work for. So what we would do is we would ask the questions, have the person answer the questions in a way that it didn't sound like they got asked a question. Does that make sense? So they were just talking and telling stories, but they were really answering a question that we had, but we'd cut the audio out and you wouldn't hear us asking the question, you would only hear the answer. Make sense? So you can do all sorts of different things. In fact, you could cut out half of their sentence and make it sound like they were saying something that they completely weren't saying. You can have fun doing whatever you want because that's going to be the fun part of being in the media, right? All right. So let's say, okay, so Miriam and Anna are a team. Miriam's going to go get the video. Anna's going to do writing all of the Anna's going to do all the questions. And then afterwards, Miriam's going to upload it onto something for Anna to work on. Anna's going to start doing some of the editing. She's going to send it back to Miriam. Miriam's going to do some of the editing and they're going to work together. Anna's going to choose the beautiful music that's going to go in the background. And Miriam's going to have her own song at the very end because she likes different music. I don't know. Whatever you guys want to do. Do you see how it's supposed to work? Is everyone understanding? Does anyone have any questions on how to put together these videos? To all of that babbling and you guys have no questions.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
We have a question. So if Miriam and Nathaniel decided they wanted to work together as a team and they sent sent an invitation to one of the people on the list of people.
Yep.
There's in the spreadsheet, there's some columns saying, one says date invitation sent.
Yes.
Accepted, engaged. So if that means that Miriam and Nathaniel have sent an email to one of the people on the list, then put in that little column the date they sent the email request, or say, hey, would you like us, to work with you? Is that kind of what I just want to make sure we know how.
So okay. So then now we've created our teams and we've got them color coordinated. So everyone knows who's on which teams and they also know who's not been put on a team yet. So you can go in and look and see, oh, so-and-so is still not a team. I can ask them if they want to be on my team. And you've got your emails there so you can contact each other. Once you guys have got your teams and you guys talk about who you want to interview, then you go over to the assembly persons area and then it says requested or accepted engagements by. And then you put the date that's requested. I think the date requested ended up the last names got put on there, so I can scoot those over. But you want to put the date that you invited them, because you want everybody who needs to know if someone's already been asked to be interviewed. Now, here's the thing. You don't have to not ask the same person if you want to interview the same person. But we also want to make sure we're mindful that everyone gets a chance to be interviewed and everyone gets a chance to have a little special video. So that's why we're putting it in there. Now, if you guys are doing 3 and 4 videos and you're interviewing 4 people, I don't want someone else not to be able to interview the same person if they want to. I don't know how gung-ho you guys are going to go. So that's why we're requiring at least 2 of the videos, and I want you to work with 2 different people. So if you're going to work with Amy Parks and you're going to do Amy's campaign video, because she's doing the sergeant at arms job, and then you want to do Denver Brooksby as the second one. You don't want to do Amy as 2 and then nobody else, right? Does that make sense? Split them up so you guys get an opportunity to work with 2 different people, okay? But yes, you're going to put down what date you invited those people, so that the people can see. They're going to have the interviews up there, and then when they respond back and say, yes, I accept your interview, you're just getting practice logging that kind of information, right? So you're going to log it and you're going to say they accepted the interview, and so we know that this team is interviewing this person. And you could even put in for the political one, or you can put in for the special one. You can write it, whatever video you're going to be doing with that person, if you want to include it in that little space right there. And then the rest of us know who's been interviewed, who hasn't. And then I can also see, because all of this is your audition, who's the one who is getting in there and getting the job done first and foremost, who's on top of it, who, when Yes Week rolls around, if I give an assignment to them, I know they're going to go out and get it done first thing, right? So this is part of your audition, is to go out there and get started. Like, show me what you have, show me your enthusiasm, show me what it is that you're willing to do. And those are the people, obviously, that I'm going to want to work with, right? Okay. So does that answer the questions as far as the date, invitation sent, and then the engagement? I can switch this.
Okay, one other
here.
question. So
Yep.
do you want us to, or them to put who they've sent an invitation to? And how do you do that? I mean, like, because if they haven't accepted it, but we sent them, or they sent them an email or whatever, how do they put, where are they, who they asked, or does that matter?
They put it down next to the person's name that they are asking. So for example, oops, I did that wrong. Whoops. Paste. Okay. So I switch this out now. What I have to do is take this off. Okay, so now it's set up. So if let's say I am Nora, and Nora and Emma Conklin are a team, right? Our first two names on our media list. They decide they're going to be a team, and they want to interview Amy. They would put next to Amy's name, date requested, sent by. They would put down the date that they requested, right? And they can color coordinate that date in purple, the same color as the media team. So we know which team is asking which politician to do whatever they're asking them to do, whether it's the special video or the political one. I don't know if we really need to specify, because as long as you get your 2 videos done, you're good. And then let's say they want to interview Noel Parks. They would also put in that, send an invitation out, write down in that slot next to Noel Parks the date that they sent an invitation, with their date being color coded to match their team. So we know which team is inviting which people. And then also, as soon as Amy responds, then and rejects or accepts, then they can put that in the request accepted, engaged by, and then put their names down, who engaged them, and if it was accepted or denied. So does that make sense? I'm looking at, yeah.
So we'd have to like send them an email first, or like a text or something.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, send them in. Just contact them however you want. We
Yeah.
have the emails there, but you would just contact them. Even if you just called them and you say, hey, listen, we want to interview you. Write down the day they said, oh yeah, that's fine. That's cool. Let's do that. And then from that moment on, I know you've engaged them, and I'll expect something. So this is kind of your accountability also, because I could leave it to you guys to say, okay, go ahead and do this, but I need to know who's the one who really did it and who's the one that started and failed, or who's the one that didn't follow through, that kind of thing, right? Because that's going to make a difference on our team. I don't know if you realize this, but media team is not a place to sit around and do nothing. This is going to be a hard job, but it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun. But again, it's a limited amount of people that are going to make it into the teams. And I want to work with people who are going to really want to get in there and get to work, right? Not like those assemblymen who are just going to sit around and talk all day, right?
Yeah.
Right, Joy? All right. So, does anyone have any other questions? We have just a few more minutes. I highly recommend you guys get on that spreadsheet right now and start talking to people and figuring out who you want to have on your teams. You guys have an advantage because I just gave you the heads up before anyone else that's not on this workshop. They didn't get that. So you guys did. So let's make sure you guys utilize that, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so let me just reiterate, making
Mhm.
sure I got it. So
Okay.
the media teams, they're going to find someone else to work with, and then they want to make a campaign video. One
Yep.
video is a campaign video. So someone in the name of the assembly person that's colored, because those guys have said they're campaigning.
Yep.
They're campaigning for an office. And then another video about some other, it could be some law bill that they want to pass or some problem. I mean, what's the other video? Tell me more about that.
So basically, the other video is just a special video. It's like, it really doesn't have a parameter. I really want to see what the kids come up with. It could be a commercial. It could be an infomercial. It could be an influencer talking about a product and at the same time having a politician come on and talking together with the politician. And let's get to know our politician, Finn Patterson. Okay, so Finn, what kind of, laundry soap do you use? I prefer, it could be anything. I don't want to limit them on the second one. The campaign interview is great, and that's going to be across the board. Everyone, I really am excited about seeing those, and that's what we expect to see, and that's the more refined kind of like parameter. We're already kind of in our head knowing what that one's going to be. The second one, I want it to be anything. I want you guys to show me how creative you can be. I want you guys to think about all the things that we've talked about in the workshops, like what's relevant, what's going to catch people's attention, all of the different things that we talked about as far as like the angles, the music, the lighting, the background, the framing, all of that kind of stuff is important in your video. So have some fun, but go back and start watching those other videos and start writing notes down with, oh, okay, well, if we're going to do this, then I want to be able to portray it this way, or I want it to come across this way.
And that second video doesn't have to work with an assembly person, or does it also need to be with an assembly?
It is also with an assembly person. So it's going to be an assembly person. I would say focus on the bills that they're going to write. If they're writing bills, focus on issues that they may have, even if they're not writing a bill. Okay, so in your fairy tale kingdom, what are some of the issues that you face? And then do a really fun video where you're showing all sorts of different, you could do a montage of their fairy kingdom issues. Like we have problems with rats, and then we have, kids who are running into the river and drowning, or we have this, or we have whatever issues they're having. You could have fun interviewing and talking to them about that. This is where I want to see a lot more of the editing, a lot more of the graphic design stuff. This is where I don't want to limit you guys. I want you guys to do whatever you want to do, but show off.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have one
Okay.
more. Where do we
Yes,
find
go.
the spreadsheet for interviews?
Okay, so on the interview or on the email that Joy sent out, that was the tale of the tales or tell the tales, there is a link that it says click here for the spreadsheet. There's a link there. If you notice, there's people who have already signed up for team members and have already sent invitations out. So they are on the ball. So make sure that you got that and that works. If it doesn't work, let me or Joy know, and then we can make sure that that works for you. But yeah, get in there
Let me
and
just
start.
say one more thing about that. So the email has a link to a document that's like, hello to all the fairy folk. Okay. That's what's in the email. When you click
Oh,
on
yeah,
that
that's right.
document, that gives a big description, much more description than the email does, about the Tell the Tales campaign. And in it, it says, click here for the spreadsheet. Okay, that's in the document. That's the document is the one that's listed in the email. Got it? And if you need me to post it right now in the chat, I can do that. Okay.
That's a good idea, probably.
Okay.
So the influencers, so here's a good question Jay just asked. What do the influencers do for their interview? Same thing. Influencers can interview a politician, but remember, influencers don't have to be unbiased. They can be, oh, here's my friend from childhood and we grew up together and I wanted to introduce you to him and ask him a few questions and let's let you get to know this, my buddy over here and how great he is. And so that's an influencer's perspective for their interview. Does that make sense? Whereas a reporter is going to say, and here we are today with this assembly person. We noticed that you are, doing this kinds of things in the community. We would like to ask you a few questions and blah, blah, blah. They go from there, right? So biased, unbiased. That makes sense? So influencers, much more casual. They can use slang, they can hang out, they're dressed more casually. Reporters, more formal, more, critical thinkers, unbiased. Straight shooters, that kind of thing. Does that answer the question, Jade? Yes, no? Good, awesome. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Like I said, there's already people forming teams, so get in there and start working on that. And again, think about who you want to work with that maybe has some skills that you don't have. And you can always email, text, or call each other and find out what teammates work better. You don't have to like call someone and say, hey, be my team member. You can call someone and say, hey, do you think that we would work well together? What skills do you have? What skills do I have? What do we think we could do? And if it doesn't work, go find somebody else or find 3 people, because again, it's not limited to just 2. I want 1 person to have to work with somebody, so that makes it a 2, but you can still have 3 people if you want 3 people as well. And that may be a good idea if somebody's an out-of-town person, if you have more people that are in town so that you have somebody that can do a live interview if you need to do that. Okay, makes sense? All right, thumbs up, everybody. All right. I thank you all for coming, and I really appreciated all your questions and comments and smiley faces. And hopefully the rest of you guys that are out there watching this recording later will enjoy it. And if you have any questions, again, you can email me or you can email Joy, and she will get a hold of me and let me know what the questions are. And hopefully I will be able to answer any of those questions and we can have some fun. All right, guys, we got through all the hard stuff. Next week's going to be fun, I hope. Okay.
When is this due? When are the videos due again? Just to remind everybody.
The videos are due. Let me go back over here to my spreadsheet.
I think the 16th.
Oh, did I close it? It's actually on I want to say the 14th. That's
Okay.
not it. Oh, here it is. So it is, okay, so we're going to do the 30th, which is next week, is when we're going to have our group get together Zoom meeting, and the people that didn't get the opportunity to do it now and haven't done it, we're going to make sure that everyone gets their teammates and invitations sent out by the 30th. So then you guys have your videos that will be needing to be turned in on the 14th of May. Now, those of you who are on the assemblyman, this is my media team, but the assemblymen actually need to have theirs turned on the 13th. And I think she's doing that so that we can prep the videos, and we may actually want to have those turned in. Like, for example, the 14th, we're going to have a workshop that night where we're going to watch the videos. So maybe we'll need to have them turned in by noon on the 14th. So I have time to review the videos, and we know how much time it's going to take for our workshop. So we don't spend 4 hours watching videos instead of, doing some fun stuff. So, so if we make our deadline the 14th at noon, then everyone's got their videos in. The 7th, we're going to have another workshop where we're going to start talking about the truth in reporting, and that's going to be all the fun stuff, the sneaky stuff that reporters do that you guys need to learn about, and then decide whether or not you're going to do that or not. And then, oh, thanks, Joy, for fixing that. And then we will be getting out on the 21st. We do not have a formal workshop, but I think between the 14th and the 21st, I'm sure at one point during that time, I will go through and make sure that everybody knows who's on which teams the media people will choose. And then on the 28th is when we're going to be doing our team building once we know what our teams are. And also, all of these really great videos that you guys are gonna do, for those of you who are here and those of you that are still listening on the recording, those are what we're gonna be doing during Yes Week. We're gonna be putting those up on monitors, and those are gonna be playing as TV shows, TV moments during the day. So don't think they're gonna be wasted. They're gonna be seen by everyone during Yes Week and probably several times a day. Because we need to have something rolling so that we can interrupt it, right? With our breaking news. Yes. Okay. Anything else? Besides Sonia, you're so great.
You're so great.
Woo. Yes. And thank you, Joy, for being here.
Amazing, thank you.
All right. And Eliza, thank you for doing the recording and covering for your mom. Tell her thank you. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.